Hi, and good morning. It's Jennifer Britton, and I want to welcome you to our February 2020 call entitled No Person is an Island. February is often the month of relationships, and this month is no different. Really wanted to earmark today's call as an opportunity to think about how are you collaborating? How are you building relationships? So, this is a topic that is cross sectoral. It's going to cut across effective virtual conversations. It will also be of interest to you if you have a copy of PlanDoTrack or Coaching Business Builder. And with that, want to also invite you to take a look back at a call I hosted this time last year. It was entitled Collaboration 101, 10 Questions to Ask. So lots on the go. I'm curious, where are you collaborating right now? My guess is you've probably got a variety of partnerships, whether you are a coach and partnering with your clients, maybe you are a firm partnering not as a vendor, but partnering with the organizations you work with. Perhaps you are partnering and co-designing programming with someone else. I've been using this term, no person is an island, because I think many times in the remote space, we feel very isolated. Most islands, and I lived in the Caribbean and worked in the Caribbean for almost 15 years, most islands are part of an archipelago, right? They are part of a bigger land mass, even if it's like way down below. So are we an island? Are we interconnected? There probably is some connection point that we are not aware of. We operate in the remote space, but may be very connected. And in fact, I like this is out on the west coast of Canada, taken from a flight I was doing between Vancouver and Victoria several years ago. But just notice that even on the same landmass, you can have different geographies. And so even if it's an island, maybe there is part of the island that is inhabited, part of it is not inhabited. What is going to help you really look at integration, look at creating community, etc. In today's call, I wanted you to get yourself thinking wider than just you, especially if you're a solopreneur, right? A solopreneur is someone who runs their own show. And as a solopreneur, we may really feel like we are in isolation. That's, many times we do start our own business because we want to be quick and speedy, but chances are we are partnering with others and relying on them for things like information, resource flow, direction, delegation, scaling, and acceleration. What are you doing to really build those relationships, to be able to partner with people that can help leverage your resources, maybe connect you in with some new client groups, provide new direction, or maybe you're partnering with others so you can delegate, right? Part of the challenge of a solopreneur is that we don't have enough time to focus on those tasks that are really going to move the business forward. So if we're constantly just doing stuff, are we getting proposals out? Are we replying to speaker requests? Are we getting in front of people virtually and in person so that we can scale our work? And of course, part of that means we need to have things on the back end in terms of what we offer. Also, what are we doing to accelerate, right? Accelerating our business is about moving it forward in speeds that, like a rocket ship, we might not be able to do by ourselves. So think about this. I'm going to give us 2 minutes right now. I'm going to set a timer. I'll give you 2 minutes just so you can think about how you want to rely on each other in each of these 6 areas. All right, I hope this has allowed you to think about the different ways that you want to partner. Really isolate that in. And I think some of the blog posts that we have will support you. Again, if you're thinking about delegation, how do you delegate? Great posts on the 5 W's and an H of delegation. We want to be specific. We want to know what's important. We want to provide that bigger picture around delegating a task or an activity. We want to make sure that we have frequent touch points. I was reading something recently that solopreneurs have a very underutilized skill in delegation. And as a former virtual leader, this became an essential skill, right? As someone who might not be the boots on the ground, delegating a task or responsibility that was tied to that project, that location, became absolutely critical. So delegation really is a skill set that you will want to be further enhancing and further modifying as you go. Today, in today's call, I want to leverage in or zoom into 3 core skills for collaboration. And again, these are skills that I cover in almost all of my books, particularly in the more recent work and more recent conversations that we're having over at remotepathways.com. So if you haven't found the Remote Pathways podcast, check it out, remotepathwayspodcast.com. First one I want to cover is connect. How are you connecting in with people? Connection leverages this second skill of curiosity. And again, I think a bit of a pitfall can happen is that we think we know everything. So how are we, going back to beginner's mindset, how are we looking at learning about others? Because they might actually be able to help us or might be able to connect us onto someone else. And in order to do that, connection is not just about like saying, hey, this is what I have to offer. Connection is also about leveraging skills and really connecting in deeply with your own approaches to group and team coaching. We also want to look beyond the screen. So I like this graphic because it is about thinking about what's out there. And in our pixelated world, all we can see is what's on the screen. So what are you doing to have others that you partner with share a little bit about their world, their work, their priorities? Hope that you will think a bit more about together looking beyond the screen. And that's the flip side, right? Relationship building is two-way. So how are we looking beyond the screen as well in our work? In Effective Virtual Conversations, I have a chapter on collaboration, and I've taken from that chapter some of the things that we want to be exploring before we collaborate or at the start of the partnership, during design, if we're co-designing a program, if we're co-leading, how do we implement, and then at the end, how do we follow up post-program? I've pulled these in a different frame, so it's the same thing, but again, at the start, are we creating an intention statement? Are we talking about why we're doing this and what we want? Are we talking about what success will look like? Are we also looking at what are our strengths? How are we complementary? And again, we know that teams, groups, partnerships that thrive typically have complementary skills and have the ability to work across differences. We also want to look at where the gaps exist. Where do gaps exist? What are the things that get in the way? What about blind spots? What blind spots do we have? And what's important in our work? What values drive our work? What are the philosophies, business philosophies that are important to us? And do we share samples of the work together? Finally, what else is important to look at the start? Because a rocky start might mean smooth finish, but if we just jump into doing the work, chances are we have missed a whole opportunity to look at how we do the work together. 1 + 1 = 3 in many instances. I should say 1 + 1 = 3, and really it may not look the same. So we want to do some touch points at the start. We want to be doing it as well during design. So what are the different ways we want to communicate? Are we creating a master to-do list? Are we leveraging and matching strengths to what people can do? Who is going to take a lead on what? And what are those accordion points? In my first book, Effective Group Coaching, I talk about the accordion point of design. What needs to get expanded if things are moving quickly? What can be contracted if things are moving fast? It's really important that you're both on the same accordion and you know if things are, getting moved down a certain tangent, what is it going to look like? What are you going to take? So what is a common stake for our work? That's another big question. And what do we want to do, or what do we want to ensure happens no matter what. So really, this is talking about like commitment. And at the end of the day, what are you going to make a stand for, take a stand for, no matter what? This work pays off because then during implementation, we can really look like a team together. Otherwise, we're going to look like two people who really don't have that rhythm, that dance down. And during implementation, we're still in conversation. Who does what? What are the deadlines? What are the observations? What might need a tweak, an adjustment? What's working? What's not working? And again, the accordion, what still needs to be adjusted? It's a dance. I've used that term a couple of times, but it really is not just about like, doing your thing. It really is a selfless act. So you'll want to think about collaboration carefully, right? And as I share in other calls, Morten Henson's book on collaboration is excellent around this. He talks a lot more about disciplined collaboration. He also asserts that, poor collaboration is worse than no collaboration at all. That's a paraphrase, but something along the lines of worse collaboration or poor collaboration is worse than no collaboration at all. Finally, we want to come together post-program and we want to really do a review, what worked well, what didn't. We want to talk about successes. We want to talk about our rules and how those worked. Maybe it flowed, maybe it didn't flow, and how did it fit together? There's always learning and collaboration, and I think sometimes we leave it at the site. Here's an invite post-program to really be going to the end, to really look back at implementation. How did those rules work? Did we have enough time? Did we accordion? What were the observations we noticed? Is there some learning here for each one of us? So there's opportunity in any collaboration to learn about ourselves, to learn about others, and it is also an opportunity to take some time to acknowledge each other. Again, think about the people who really know your work and who know you as a professional. If you are a solopreneur, we don't always benefit from the insights of others. And so if you are partnering, it may be useful to have a bit of a debrief talking about what do you see as our strengths? What do you appreciate? Next time, I think we need to. This is an acknowledgement framework that I write about in Effective Virtual Conversations. I think it's a really useful phrasing and hopefully, warms you up to the constructive feedback that is inevitable, right? If we're not learning as we go, we probably aren't achieving the full impact of what we need. So building relationships is multiple. Again, no person is an island. As you step into it, you'll really want to think through some questions. Who do you want to and need to be in relationship with? And that might take you out of your comfort zone, right? If you are working remote and all of a sudden you need to travel, that might be a little different. If you need to work across industries or boundaries or with other people and players, like how is that stretching you? But as always, we want to be in service. We want to be curious in terms of how we're building relationships. Most times people are happy to talk about themselves. I think this is a little quick tip I received around networking years ago. I used to have to go to a lot of cocktail parties. In my former life as a diplomat, went to a lot of cocktail parties, and I learned very quickly that an easy way to interface is if you could get other people talking. So think about what it is that you want to offer. How can you be of service? What's a question or two that are going to put people at ease and maybe open them up? And what's your intention? What is it? What is the reason you want to step into this work and this relationship? I think that's important that we don't lose that in sight. And it's important that we also continue a focus. Otherwise, it can spend a lot of time in that. So I hope this has been useful. As always, quick tips. There are a number of areas that you can follow up with. If you have a copy of Coaching Business Builder, PlanDoTrack, check out the top 20 exercise. That is in section 2 or 3. In Effective Virtual Conversations, there's a whole chapter on collaboration, touching on at a much deeper level many of the light topics that we touched on here today. And I would also say that if you like something for daily focus, you've got the One Biz Step a Day, coachingbusinessbuilder.com. That is running again this month of February. I typically earmark February as the month of collaboration and relationships. So today's theme was No Person is an Island. We are always in relationship. And if you enjoyed this, I hope maybe you'll join me this year for you, or pass this on to your colleagues. Maybe you already have a coach. Maybe you're looking for some CCE approved training. Maybe you're looking to do a virtual retreat. or to do some strategy work. Hope that you will join me for focusing on what's important to you. And with that, check out the resources. And I look forward to being back together again for one of our upcoming calls. A reminder, we're doing 2 calls a month now in 2020. Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.